Hey, what's up, folks? It's your boy DJ L7. I have a special guest tonight, and I'd say a friend. Met her on the front lines, right? And the people who are out there on the front lines, hey, that's what's real, yeah? So thank you very much, Diane, for coming tonight. And but the thing is that even though you're out there, right, pushing for against Wall Street, right? You were there at the Wall Street Bets event, right? Fighting against, corporate power. You were there at the Assange events on a regular basis, right? Promoting free speech. It sounds like you're a wonderful person. Everything you said seems reasonable, right? In person, you're a great person, right? Everything seems fine. Then, right? Yeah, for some reason, out the blue, right? People hear the word Larouche, and oh my God, what? Like, I just don't even like. Why would people, like, have this weird reaction? Like, you seem cool as shit. Like, I don't get it. Like, do you know what's going on?
I do, and I'm really glad we're having this conversation because years ago, and people should know, Lyndon LaRouche passed away 3 years ago on February 12th, Lincoln's birthday, at the age of 96. 2022 would be the centennial of his birth. He was born in 1922,
Okay.
in September. His name is probably the most controversial radioactive name of any in the United States.
I've been shocked
More,
by the response. Yeah.
yeah. And it's more older people, baby boomer generation, and especially in New York, because LaRouche created something called the National and then International Caucus of Labor Committees, which he described as an association of conferences in the 60s, actually at Columbia University.
Right.
And they intervened, I think it was the 67 strike, a student strike. He was teaching economics courses at Columbia, the New School, Swarthmore College, and already by the late 60s, early 1970s, he was sort of on the hit list of the FBI. He didn't say for what, but they wanted him to serve as an informant for something, and he said no. And and he said because of that they destroyed his marriage to his first wife. And later there were documents through Freedom of Information showing that he was definitely on the radar screen of the FBI even before he ran for president his first time in 1976.
Well, we know the FBI told Martin Luther King to freaking kill himself, so this is on record.
Right,
So this
right,
is not like
exactly.
out of the imagination. So okay, it sounds like something that is possible, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Colin.
And then what happened is he was trying to, really he was an old FDR Democrat. He was a World War II veteran,
Okay.
Quaker. He served as a medic because he said he absolutely still found it reprehensible to kill another person, but after Pearl Harbor, he wanted to do something to help defeat Hitler, defeat fascism. He ended up being stationed in Asia, was actually in Burma and in India.
Okay.
And he talked about when he was in India, the population would come up to the American soldiers and say, look, when you get back to the United States, can you do something to help us? We feel like we're slaves to the British. We just produce raw materials. They take advantage of our labor. Then they finish the goods and sell them back to us at exorbitant prices.
Okay.
This was clearly in his mind, and he became happier even in later years when he discovered a book by Franklin Roosevelt's son, Elliot Roosevelt, called As He Saw It. And I would urge everybody to read this book. It's unbelievable because Elliot was in the military. He was with FDR in many of the meetings, including with Winston Churchill. And what FDR said to Winston is he said, we're not in this war to preserve British colonial methods or 18th century colonial methods. And Churchill blew up. He said, what do you mean colonial methods? And Franklin Roosevelt said, anything that extracts goods and labor from a country and gives them nothing in return.
Okay.
And then Winston said, well, that would mean the end of the British Empire. And FDR said, yeah, every single colony should have its independence at the end of this war.
That makes
And
sense. Okay.
yeah, and FDR died. It's LaRouche's view that the British deliberately prolonged the war with all of the shenanigans in Africa. And, it took till very long, 44, I guess, when we crossed at Normandy, right? The Normandy invasion, which you might have done earlier if you really wanted to defeat Hitler. So LaRouche thought they delayed because they wanted FDR dead by the time the war ended, and they
Yeah,
succeeded.
there's all kinds of weird machinations. I don't try to like. It's too honestly, it's so complex for me, and all the information secondhand. I just don't really trust much of it.
Right.
So like
It's
that
hard to
past
know,
history
but the
stuff. Yeah.
truth is FDR was dead. He died April 12th, 1945. The war ended. VE Day was what, May 7th and 8th,
Okay.
a month later, 4 weeks later. And then what happened? Everything FDR intended, like the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, were to level the playing field, not to create
Right.
conditionalities. So Truman basically upended everything FDR wanted to do
So
on
are you saying
behalf of
that
Wall Street.
LaRouche is for international monetary funds?
If it served the purpose FDR intended,
Right. Yeah.
but
So
it didn't.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
something that we
and
talk
this
about
is,
in a lot of my program, right? People say UBI. UBI could be good or bad. Like welfare can be good or bad, right? Affordable housing can be good or bad, right? The implementation is very key. So I'm not really against like people say nuclear good or bad, right? That's another thing that people say sometimes, right? They actually say that the computing power is actually going to exceed the amount of electricity we have, like, in our lifetime. So you want your computers not to work? I mean, you wait till that happens. So that, yeah, so okay.
right.
So
No,
look, I'm not
power
saying
is a
nuclear is the
big
answer
deal.
100%, but you got to have
Right,
something in
but
plan. You can't be like just no, and then there's no alternative plan, and it's gonna fail. Like that's not a
yeah,
plan.
sure.
Yeah.
No, so what the idea was under FDR and the Bretton Woods was fixed exchange rates, very important. Because what does
Okay.
the IMF do? And they say, well, we'll give you a loan, and your currency is 10 to the dollar. But
Right.
you've got to devalue your currency. So when you repay the loan, your currency is going to be 300 to the dollar.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden you
That's.
owe 30 times what you borrowed.
He's like,
You haven't
oh,
even.
oh, sorry, Kagan.
That's okay. So LaRouche actually began organizing entire nations to break from the system. He met with Indira Gandhi of the Non-Aligned Movement. He met with Portillo, the president of Mexico. Portillo in 1982 nationalized the oil and was trying to organize a bloc
That's
of
great.
nations. Yeah, and
Yeah.
Kissinger went bonkers. And we have a letter from him he wrote to the head of the FBI in 1982 saying the LaRouche people are getting obnoxious. I'm consulting my lawyer. We have to stop. Literally, that's what he said. The LaRouche people are getting obnoxious. So they began a witch hunt. And then in 80, also at the same time, LaRouche was running for president in 1980. He met Ronald Reagan at a debate. LaRouche was working on laser beam defense against nuclear missiles.
SDI, right?
That's what it became. And LaRouche said to Reagan, I know you, like Kennedy, recognize, and Eisenhower, nobody wins a nuclear war. Shouldn't we have something other than Kissinger's mutual and assured destruction? And he briefed Reagan on the laser idea. Reagan loved it.
Yeah.
So after Reagan won, he invited LaRouche down to Washington, and LaRouche became Reagan's back channel to the Soviet Union, which rejected Reagan's offer.
Okay.
So what became clear that LaRouche was not just some armchair academic fart with good ideas,
Right.
but he somehow had a movement. He had power to move heads of state
Right.
to get things done. And in 1986, when associates of LaRouche began winning Democratic Party primaries all over the country, there was a huge freak out. And they put out millions of articles saying LaRouche is anti-Semitic, racist, homophobic, he's a communist, he's a fascist, he hates women, he did this, he did that, he has 6 heads, he has a tail, everything.
Yeah.
And
So
and
wait, are you
people,
saying that they're like the Democrats were mad at him for working with the Republicans? Is this some partisan stuff? Well, that's maybe an element
both
of it, but
parties, both, I mean, look at what we just
right.
saw with the Bushes and the Clintons,
Okay.
right? The whole Bush family endorses Hillary Clinton, who
Yeah.
wants to shoot down, have a no-fly zone over Syria and shoot down Russian planes,
Yeah.
to defend ISIS. So we used to actually have we put out a pamphlet after they threw LaRouche in prison on a
Yeah.
completely trumped up conspiracy charges, that said, he's a bad guy, but we can't say why. Because we think many people got told that. LaRouche is
It's
terrible.
it seems like really like it's so unfair, right? Because you take a look at Mike Bloomberg and he ran as a Republican and there's no problem, and he can run as a Democratic president and there's no problem, right? Everybody's cool with it and they're gung ho about it, but someone else does it and oh my God, right? It seems like, if some people get like praised for doing bipartisan work, right? Some people get attacked for it, and it's
Right.
straight bullshit. Yeah.
Well, I think the threat of Larouche was that he wanted to deliver on creating a new, in the 70s, he called it an international development bank. But
Okay.
basically, his intent was to bring down the speculative, blood sucking garbage that we see at Wall Street and the City of London and
Okay.
replace it with something that actually allowed the maximum number of people on the planet to develop their God given talent.
Okay. I have to admit that when you talk about this economics thing, I don't really know that much about it, right? But there's also like within the community that I know that watches my program, right? Because I'm not really so large. There's something popular called MMT. This guy Steve Grumbine or something. He's appearing on like in front of NIPAN. I know he's in a lot of spaces as well. I don't even know what MMT is. There, what's the relationship between MMT? Is there because there's a lot of different factions of MMT. I'm sure, right? Yeah. Are any of those ideas? I don't know what really what
Well,
MMT. I'm still trying to find out what it
yeah,
is.
I would say there's all kinds of different theories about monetarism, of moving money this way and that, or do you
Yeah.
tax the rich or not? And I'm all for taxing like speculation and things like that,
Yeah.
or having very high marginal tax. If someone's making $1 billion, why do they really need that? And
I
shouldn't
like
they be
that. Yeah,
taxed,
why hate
right?
on Diane's pretty cool. Like, she has these sound like
No,
reasonable things. These sound like good ideas to me.
yeah,
Yeah.
but the real question isn't the money, it's the physics. In other words, what you were bringing up about electricity. Do you have enough electricity? Do you have clean drinking water? Is that a
Yeah.
factor? Take what I think when the pandemic hit. Could we not have said, okay, you know what? This pandemic has exposed that we have destroyed ourselves. We don't have enough hospital beds. We don't have enough diversification in our agriculture production. We have these giant monopolies. We have bridges that are collapsing. Our pipes are 100 years old. The ventilation in the NYSHA is terrible. It's going to make people sick. So, you know what? Let's actually take the opportunity of the disaster, I'll put it that way, to say, why don't we change our whole economy? We are going to take all these young people right now where it's not really safe for them to be in classrooms together. Maybe they should be doing work outdoors, improving the sanitation, or installing an entire new sewer system. I mean, like the pipes in the city. Maybe we should put in modern ventilation in every single classroom, in every nursing home. Maybe we should bust up the monopolies on the farms and make sure we have meat packing plants that are small. And it turns out, I didn't realize this, silly me, I should have known. Apparently, because they say, well, mass production, if you have a mega meat processing plant, that you can get more cattle or whatever processed, more head of cattle, more head of hogs or whatever per
No, I
hour
love that.
or
I'm
per,
actually a tutor. I love the idea so much because there's actually a saying that one of the great things of the American system is we don't give the students a reason to learn what they're learning, so that it's completely irrelevant to their daily lives. Actually, when you're talking about like sanitation, you're talking about like actually showing the kids about how to defeat like actual problems that we have, relevant stuff.
right.
That's really actually what I
Yeah.
think what's been a problem with the whole education system. If we look at our spending versus our outcomes, it's crap. So a lot of like, look, maybe whatever all the people out there that is watching, right? Yes, some people come back and say things about Diane Sare, whatever, right? I still have to find out more, but really give her a chance, right? The things that she's saying, honestly, it sounds fucking good to me. Okay, like seriously. So like, just give her a chance. What? Who knows, Rhea? Who knows this? I don't know Larouche yet, yeah, but just give Diane Sare a chance. All right. I think,
Well,
yeah,
I'll tell you, you'll never hear any of this from Chuck Schumer. He, you know,
yeah.
we
They
won't
play
hear
dirty
that.
there.
He's
Yeah.
busy bailing out Wall Street and fueling the 17 intelligence agencies who are going to take everyone down who has ideas like I'm saying. But so had we done that rather than sending people all these checks for staying home and issuing, I think Wall Street got like 4 trillion more dollars of bailouts during this, which was really sick, causing hyperinflation. And we said, no, we're going to pay you well, but you're going to do things that will, in effect, harden the grid to protect us, to protect the health of the American people. Some of the doctors we work with, the former Surgeon General, Dr. Joycelyn Elders, she said, look, you can't turn someone into a medical doctor in a year, but you could create a medical task force of young people with 1 year of training If you want a group of people who are specifically trained to deal with COVID, you could do that in a year, like
Yeah,
a crash medical
absolutely.
program. Yeah, so
That
you
makes sense.
create a task force of young people that can go, because the Bronx had, I think, 20% more people die than other parts of the city. Why is that? Well, look at the condition of the buildings. Look at the poverty. Look who lives there. So, or in Appalachia or Mississippi or places like that, you could have had young people going into these places and transforming the situation and saved thousands of
You know,
lives.
I have thousands of hours in doctor's office. I worked as a legal observer for patients that were seeing doctors, right, on the patient's advocate. I've worked emergency rooms. I was in medical school, and to tell you the truth, your plan, right, does make sense. If you take a look at the health industry already, you have specialists like right? Do you see right? You have a heart doctor, right? You have a pulmonologist, right, taking care of your lungs. To have a specialized field taken care of, do you need to have every single piece of it, right? You might say, oh, well, what about this instance? Like they have, they're elderly or something like that. They have geriatric care, right? They have other things that you can in combination, right? And there are people who see multiple doctors. So if you think about what you're saying, if you know the industry, right, you have some know nothing who says, oh, blah blah, it's got to be a doctor, blah blah. Well, look at the system right now. What do you? So much ignorance out there coming from someone, right, who been in the industry. Look at the way the system works now. Actually, it doesn't sound like it's like such a far cry from what already exists. So the critics out there, I ask you guys to really, hey, maybe there's some things, right. So as in terms of taking care of the um, people's concerns about the Larouche thing, whatever, right? Maybe it was the affiliation with the Reagan thing. Maybe it was, fighting against possible nuclear warfare. They don't like the laser thing, whatever. But, well, I hope you have some plan then, right? Maybe it's the economic thing, right? But,
No, it's
yeah,
really, I have to say, it was very concerted between the news media, and one of the big coordinators was a guy named John Train, who was a big Wall Street guy in New York, who actually held a meeting at his lush Manhattan apartment with the anchormen of NBC, ABC, CNN, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, Washington Post, where they agreed, we will say nothing good about LaRouche, we will only slander him. By the way, John Train was one of the key players in the gun running in Iran-Contra,
yeah,
right? So they were afraid, because the only way you can
good,
keep people under
good. That's the kind.
control.
I don't want a politician who's everyone's friend. I don't want a politician who nobody is afraid of. Like you got to have some juice behind you. You got to have something to believe and be willing to fight for it. So
Yeah, and I think the controversy is an indication that they are afraid. They're afraid because they're weak. You can't just print money for decades. I mean, is there any bubble ever in the universe that did not burst?
yeah, it's just
I can't
it's
think
not
of
gonna.
everyone who's played with a bubble thing. Have you ever seen the infinite bubble? It doesn't
Yeah,
exist,
it doesn't. Yeah,
right? So it's the same thing with money. It's going to crash. We have actually an incredible moment of opportunity right now. There was a declaration. This is the last thing I wanted to say because we just have a couple minutes. But President Putin and Xi Jinping met on the sidelines of the Beijing Olympics. They signed a document which already has changed human history, and no one even knows about it here. It's a 16-page, you can find it on the Kremlin website in English. It's like a memorandum of understanding for a new security architecture. And what they say is we cannot have security agreements that jeopardize any third country. In other words, nothing should be done that harms the security of another. They also say, look, democracy is great, but it's not one size fits all. You can't impose your form of government on another nation. You don't know their culture, their religion, their history, their economy. So don't do that. The main thing is the commitment to the general welfare, to combating poverty, the pandemic, to solving the problems that face mankind. That has to be the basis of relations among perfectly sovereign nations.
sure.
And then the Chinese affirm that they support Russia's territorial integrity and that they agree with Russia that NATO should not expand into Ukraine. And Russia says we agree that with the one China policy, that Taiwan is part of China. In other words, it's just a totally respectful agreement.
Yeah, that's cool.
And
Wait, I think I might have heard about it once because did you talk about one of your symposiums?
well, we've been talking about doing something like this, but it just happened a few days ago.
Yeah, I think I was like, so I love that symposium. I think it's every Friday night. There's one coming up soon. We're gonna put
Right.
the link below so you guys could see it. It's gonna be in the description as well. But
Yeah.
is
Oh,
there?
and I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I want to say something about that because people should look. As people know, and you know, the state of New York changed the law. I'm running as unaffiliated. I'll have my own line. I'm probably going to say Larouche because if people are scared of that, I'm just going to rub it in Larouche. And it's going to say
Okay.
Larouche Independent or something like that on the line. So no one will mistake me. You can't say I hid it or I tricked you or something like that. It's going to be right there. Um, but if you don't run as a Democrat or a Republican, you have to get 45,000 signatures. It's 15,000 if you have the whole party machine behind you, but if you're on your own as an independent voice, it's 45,000 in 6 weeks, right? And parties, the Libertarian Party, the Green Party, the Independence Party, the Serve America Party, all got thrown off the ballot. And there was going to be a new party in New York, the Upstate Jobs or something like that. I forget what they called themselves. They were trying to form a new party and they said, oh, we forget it. We can't do it. It's impossible. So you have a system designed to crush any independent voice. And it's not about whether you're going to win the election. LaRouche wasn't credited with a huge number of votes. I think he got more than they said, but whatever. When he ran against Reagan in 1980, but it was an idea. It was an idea of how we could end the Cold War that he was able to express by virtue of being a candidate.
Yeah.
What they want to eliminate is my voice.
I
And
feel like we need
any,
to change more than ever, though, now. I feel like we're in a desperate time. You're right, Russia and China are rising. They're pissed off. I'm Asian American. Yo, trust me, China, they call about the 200 years of shame. They're ready to lash back at us. And the fact of the matter, we got to get our shit together. And this
right,
whole
and they don't
fucking
want to
thing about,
lash,
yeah, kissing
right,
Kawhi
they don't
guys.
want to lash back because it's not in their, they have this idea of win-win. You know, it's really Confucian. It really is from Confucius.
Some
Like,
of them, yeah.
well, of course, it's 1.4 billion people. I'm sure there's a lot of different opinions
Yeah.
among them. As in our country, look at our government. We have a zillion different factions.
Yeah.
But you know, people that made the commitment to get that number of people out of poverty, there's something interesting there. There are certain aspects that I don't agree with. You know, it's not perfect, but that's the nature of dialogue. So be respectful. Be respectful and look out for mankind as a whole, right? There's shared, at any rate, the show that's going to happen, that the link is for, is on Fannie Lou Hamer and the Mississippi Freedom Summer, because what the Black Americans went through, not only to get the right to vote, but then even when they had the right to vote, they weren't allowed to be on the ballot. And what the Mississippi Democratic Party did to the Mississippi Freedom Democrats is very similar to what's being done by the major parties in New York.
Ooh, an interesting take. Yeah, well, I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're going to discuss that, and it's going to be a phenomenal program. And the
I'll tune
link
in.
is going to be in the comments here. People can watch it.
I'll tune in. I just got back from hitting the projects. I hit a whole bunch of. Give me some flyers, yeah. Give me some flyers. Next time I'm out there, I'll hit you up, yeah. I respect your work
Great.
for real. Thank you. And I'm
Thank you
gonna
so
check out that
much.
program. Yeah, this is anybody third party independent, right? This is a affront to democracy, right? One set of rules for the establishment, another set of rules for us, which is like 3 times higher. I'm sick of that shit. I'm so sick of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a cool show. Diane's doing real work. I like this stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Well, check it out. With this, that's the shit we need. Yo, I'm not making this. I'm not trying to be on her fucking rider stuff. You know what I mean? Like if yo, you know, if it was fake, I'd say it. If you know me, you know I have no fear to call people out. Yeah. But if there's real shit being done, it needs to be fucking recognized. That's what's up. Thank you, Diane. Yeah. I'm
Thank
gonna check
you
out the show
very
tonight.
much.
We're up. Yeah. Thank
Okay,
you.
great. See
All
you.
right. Is that anything else you want to say before we go?
No,
Okay. Check out the
perfect.
website. What is it? Sarah for Senate, right?
SareForSenate.com.
You got it. All right. See you on the next one,
Okay.
folks.
Yeah.
It's a dark day in our nation when high-level authorities will seek to use every method to silence dissent. The truth must be told.
And if you want the truth, you need to check out independent media producers just like myself, DJ L7. You should subscribe and hit the bell icon to get notifications when I release a new video.
Truth of these
We are
words
on all
is
the major
beyond
platforms.
doubt.
That includes Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course YouTube. Unfortunately, we have definitely seen that these mainstream outlets will cave to corporate interests, so we encourage you to join our independently moderated communities of Reddit and Discord. We also encourage you to subscribe to us on BitChute and Daily Motion so you can see the content that YouTube doesn't want us to let you see. Hey, now it's time for the most important part of the video. That's right. It's time for us to tell you about the Taking Action group. Do you need an activist? Or maybe there's no activists around willing to help you with your cause and you need to learn to become an activist. That's exactly why we're here. Every week we get up with people from across the nation, in fact even sometimes internationally, and we develop strategies and a game plan to address the issues that are affecting all of us. Every week myself from New York City and of course my co-host Lisa from Los Angeles provide a coast-to-coast perspective on what's going on in the country. If you want to donate to help out with expenses, travel, equipment, stuff like that, then I definitely appreciate it, and you can hit us off at Venmo or PayPal. Thanks a lot. Hey, by the way, we also have a merch store, so check it out. Oh my goodness, it seems like you've reached the end of the video, so make sure you check out some of our other videos, make sure you subscribe. This is your last chance to do so thanks a lot, and looking forward to seeing you on the next one. Hope you guys enjoyed. Please comment below if you have any questions or issues you'd like me to address. And if you're an activist, the time to make things happen is now.